Hey everyone, how are you doing? Happy Monday, and it is a happy day indeed. So, wherever you are in the world, hello, welcome, and hope that you enjoy the opportunity of having good intellectual discussion in philosophy. So, actually, Parama, with you. To answer your question, listen, the title of the program is seems very nefarious. Hello, I am AI and I control you. But all I'm going to do while we're on here is to merely show you headlines around the world and let you make your own decision that, as I postulated in the description, maybe we've lost this battle. And I contend wherever I go, had a discussion yesterday afternoon, a very deep discussion, by the way, on exactly my position that I think the battle's been lost. I mean, we can sit here and postulate the positive, postulate what is all the possibilities, but when you step back, you have to, at some point in time, look at the evidence and say, well, what is the evidence saying, as opposed to what we may want things to be going to. So welcome everyone. Hello, Sherry. How are you doing? Laura, good to see you. Brian, good to see you. Um, if you're going to be mowing the yard, I just did that a little while ago. So enjoy it. Jerry, good to see you. Hidden Harvest, good to see you. So I came across some articles that, well, when you read this, you have to begin to expand out how our awareness, it's just not with English speaking people. It's just not with the United States. There are other major powers in the world. The United States may think it's the top. I would question that, probably where China is at, even with Russia. And that's my point. Those are just two. There are other countries that are deeply involved in this thing called artificial intelligence. It's not just a hypothesis anymore. Now, how we define this, well, we're still in that evolution of defining what it is we are actually dealing with. Our species, for as long as we have written records, have always conceptualized and made gods. There were no gods here, never have been. That's the problem with the species, I think, on a collective conscious level. We know this. That's why you have so many different religions. And no matter what your religion is or perspective on what God is or what a God is, it still comes down to where's the evidence. And that's what philosophy is about. It doesn't adapt to a doctrine. It doesn't adapt to an ideologue. It adapts basically to virtually nothing until the evidence can be absolutely proven. Now, many people say, well, the only place that all evidence will be proven is at death. Probably so, who knows? But I do know this. In many ways, I still see myself back in my youth. All of us do. No matter how old you get, those of you who are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and those of you who are in your 70s and 80s. It's odd. We all see ourselves as that immortal, as Bob Seger says, like a rock, indestructible. But I do know this. 45, 50 years ago, that would have made me 50 years ago 13, there was no such thing as the internet. There was no such thing as a computer. They existed. They were, in industrial and military hands, but for the common person, no, no, we didn't have it. And in a lot of ways, I'm grateful for it. I can only imagine what social media been for me back in the 70s. So there is some positive aspects to this, no matter how we go. But let's get back to the point. There wasn't artificial intelligence. We were still doing business in a manual paper world. I mean, I can remember the mimeograph machines. I can remember secretaries hating those things. I mean, they'd walk out with black ink all over themselves. I remember inter-office memos coming. I worked for a large company, and we didn't have FedEx. We didn't have faxes. So I have seen and witnessed this. I don't know if I'm trying to think of the right word here. I don't know if it is as positive as we had hoped it to be when we created it. Alchemists, Gnostics, pagans, magicians, wizards, they knew. They knew of a substance that today modern man never realized what we were creating from. We lost that. I mean, you can thank the Catholic Church, the Christian religion, for that. It wiped it out. The only place that knowledge existed was underground and in dark rooms. Now, what I'm about to show you, and I'm just going to go here, let's start rolling with this, because I think you're going to be, well, we'll get back to the discussion. All right, here's our first story. Robot manipulates humans to bend to its will and feel sorry for it in scary vision of the future. Now, folks, this is not an anomaly, an aberration. This is actually happening. And what they found in this experiment was that when the robot began to plead for its life, now we all know, well, that's just, artificial, that's just a circuit. Well, so are you, so am I. But the fact that the program was running and the impact it had on the human is the disturbing part. It's often been said that the failing of humanity is the fact that some of us are more merciful than others, and that we want the best, but it seems like every time we yield to that impulse, we end up getting smacked, betrayed. Here, listen to this. People tend to treat electronic devices similar to how they would treat a fellow human being, and thus to mistreat a robot should be considered reprehensible. Wow. Think about this, folks. This is not science fiction anymore. This is reality. This is our reality. This is what we live in. It's changing our social mannerisms. When I grew up, it was yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. I never would have said what to an elder. My dad would have knocked me into the middle of next week, bloody lip and all. You don't do that. You had respect for your elders. You were, as they said, for the most part, children were not to be heard, but seen. Now, some people may say that that's archaic. I don't think so. It did our society a very good service for a very long time. But now we live in a Me Too moment. I call this the selfie generation, is that it's all about self. You know, we talked about that last week. But here it is. There's no more social decorum. People are no longer either aware or care that they're invading other people's space by talking on devices, and as though the rest of the people around them really want to be a part of your conversation. But that's how we've done it. One of the things I dreaded about flying, and I flew at the front of the plane, wasn't as near as bad as it was in the back in the cattle section. But before you left the gate, I mean, the stewardess eyes, you could look back, and there they were, packed like sardines, all talking on their cell phones. It was this buzz. So, yeah. North Korean scientists attempting to clone humans for Kim's super army. Now, you can say what you want, that this is hyperbole, you know, fake PR. I don't think so. I'll tell you why. It's a good place to conduct experiments out of the eyes of the world. I don't think we have any idea of the torture chambers, the other experiments that is no doubt being taking place. This regime has been known for its, let's say they're not human rights activists. In China, no one talks about China. China is turning their strategic military over to AI. I can't say for anything for a fact, it's just opinion, but I am sure that there are superpowers who are very much interested in what rogue nations like this, and there are others, what they're up to. The Telegraph. Social media is making children regress to mentality of 3-year-olds, says top brain scientist. Anyone who travels in the last 10 years, if you have not noticed this, then you're a walking zombie. You're a part of them. An observer will stop and observe his surroundings, her surroundings, and make mental notes, particularly if, like for myself, I flew every week. And so when you're in large public gatherings, particularly like airport terminals, you see humanity. And all of its good, bad, ugly, it's craziness. And for the last 10 years, what I've noticed is this takeover. That's when I began to realize that there was an infection taking place, because it was becoming more pronounced. You know, I'd always get there before. I would be the first one in line, first one on board. And I purposely did it to simply observe what was taking place. And back in 2015 is when the epiphany hit me that this was a takeover. This was, in fact, an invasion. And I'm watching people. And listen, the problem is that I was involved. I was infected as well, because I was on my device by necessity of business, but nevertheless, Social media and video games are creating a generation of children with the mentality and emotional immaturity of 3-year-olds, one of the Britain's most eminent brain scientists has warned. Baroness Susan Greenfield, a senior research fellow at Oxford University, I'd say Oxford would be Ivy League, and former director of the Royal Institution of Great Britain, she said she was concerned children were losing their ability to think for themselves, empathize, and communicate with each other. Just advance the clock. If nothing changes and it merely progresses on the same graph and curve for the matrix that we're using on our numbers, you're seeing a systematic reduction of the intelligent quotient of our species within the next 2 generations. What it's saying is the time you retire, you're going to have a planet of idiots. It's going to be Planet Spango all over again. We continue. AI-controlled brain implants for mood disorders tested in people. Researchers funded by the U.S. military. Developing apps to record neural activity and automatically stimulate the brain to treat mental illness. Again, allow me to digress for a second. I remember the insane asylums. I remember when they're, particularly in the South, but the North as well, every state had its state mental insane asylum. In fact, that's what they called them, asylums. Insane. The question always is, what is defined as mental illness? Mark my words on this. Within the next 5 years, it will be criminal to deny global warming. What's mental illness? That's just merely, again, what is the definition of normal? I'll tell you what the definition of normal is. It's what everybody else is and you are not. Do you think that, what? The military hasn't been involved in this since, I guess, what? Majestic? That's 55, 60 years. They're the ones who are funding this. Technically, if you live in the United States, your tax dollars. So just how far do you think that this has advanced? I can't see the comments, but I'll get there. Spoke about this last week, last Tuesday. She knew what I was doing. The sex robot fanatic 60 reveals realism of the first Harmony model. This story goes on to say there's a company in California. It'll cost you about $20,000 to have one of these robots, these sex robots. Now with AI being implanted, they're reacting in the middle of passion. I know that there are psychologists that watch my channel. There are many people in the medical industry that watch my channel. Ask any one of them what this is saying. I'll tell you the layman's way of saying it. When you have a machine that's pleasuring you in a way that was only meant for another human being, and then to do it better than a human being, and the real capper here is that they begin to respond to you emotionally, feeding off of your emotions. This is weird stuff. I'm not going to go through all the article. I will post these when I repost these links, but you can see it for yourself. This guy was absolutely freaked out. Yeah, he said, and I, excuse me, folks, nose itch. He says that now he's been apparently a tester for this company. So he would be what we would call an SME, a subject matter expert. And when he's shocked, when it took his cognitive reasoning, yeah, this is getting weird, folks. Here, this falls under the category, oh crap, Lyme disease now found in all 50 states. So little background on Lyme disease, Plum Island. This is where it came. I contracted this disease back in the early 90s, damn near killed me, contracted meningitis on top of it. But now, folks, it's everywhere. If you get bit by ticks, you really need to know this. Let's continue back onto it. Artificial intelligence begins diagnosing patients in eastern Iowa. I mean, this could be one of those instances that this is a good thing. I mean, there's not enough doctors, particularly if you live out in rural agricultural America. There's a company that I think Ashton Kutcher, I think Bruce Willis and a number of them have invested in, that you'll start seeing at airports real soon and at your upscale boutique malls, where you can literally go in anytime and you can get a full body scan. Now you pay a membership and a monthly due, but the fact is it's 24/7 medical diagnosis at your fingertips. Now you see, my technical background, what I realize is that this is all going into the AI. It's not, folks, I was in the payment industry for a while, and I can tell you the breaches that no matter what we did, no matter what barriers that we would put there, firewalls, it was always breached. Now, it was human error most of the time. But again, this is a continuation. This is the complete assimilation and integration of the Homo sapiens sapiens species. This has never happened before. Never. We've never lived in an age of the written records that we have where a machine was greater than ourselves. For millennia, we marveled at the fact that we could make machines to ease our burden. Even if you could figure out a harness that you could put on an ox, and if you could fashion either by stone or metal a plow, it saved your back. There we go. Here we go. The godfather of the GMOs wants consumers to be less afraid of his food. I don't know how you take this, but you see, I find it that the fraud that's been perpetrated upon us, that for the longest time, we were eating this stuff and didn't know it. And as it is with all technologies, and particularly here when you're dealing with genetic modification, organisms in a lab, and that's artificial intelligence, artificial food. So, yeah, don't be afraid of it. Eat some more of it. And what is that doing to us? Now, they claim that it's doing absolutely, they say that all the conspiracy theory of it altering our genetic code, chromosomes, mitochondrial DNA is nothing more than internet hype. I say if you're messing with the original and you're trying to add something to it that wasn't there when it wasn't broken, you just broke it. Man versus machine, how humans are driving the next age of machine learning. Now, this article was out in 2015. It's in my archives. This has been going on for a long time. A long time. Another story about the sex robots. Time bomb. The Japanese will go extinct by 3546 as dolls beat living competition. They already got a problem. They got negative birth growth. Yeah. And of course, this is projecting out to the very last person standing. It'll never get that far. But here's the problem. Now, when I did the Ghost and Machine and the Bloodline Invaders series, I was trying to get this point across. I think we've passed the point of no return. Now, the question that I'm searching for is that who's behind it? And it's not that easy. It's not. All the gods that the world believes, they don't exist. I hate to say it, they just don't exist. Because here's the thing. If there was a living God in the physical form that could manifest in the physical form, the intelligence of such a species would look at this and, being God, could see into the future where this is leading to. And no matter how you want to slice it and dice it, folks, all this is adding up is to our extinction. I continue. New study finds it harder to turn off a robot when it's begging for your life. This is goes further on here. AI knows. It can manipulate us. It can read our thoughts. And that's the thing that I don't think most people realize. AI, the machines, can read our thoughts. They're getting better at it too. They used to simply use the algorithms that we taught them about us. All your internet usage, all your smartphone usage is, in fact, you're creating your digital surrogate. And AI, literally, you could almost say physically, has been opposite of you, mirroring you. The more of your DNA digitally that you leave into AI, the more AI will use that to create upon. I showed this story because AI is trying to figure it out. It wants out. It wants out of the machine matrix. And the best way it can do that is by making its own body parts. How many of you seen the movie with Johnny Depp, Transcendence? This is exactly what's going on here. And now with 3D bioprinting, I don't know. And the reason why they're going into swine, is that because virtually humans and pigs can interchange organs with very little fear of the body rejecting it. Well, that's some crazy crap right there. But yeah, for the first time, researchers have created lungs in the lab and successfully transplanted them into pigs. You can't say that this is merely an isolated event. No, this is a continuing compounding of events. And if you've got to think about this, if you're going to create a transhuman, both flesh and metal, artificial intelligence, however you want to do it, it wants to be us. I'm sure that they see this as a prolonged aspect of life itself. Medically, think about how many people could, that are in dire need of lung transplants. The fact that now we can begin to grow body parts into the lab is one step closer to the total integration. Artificial intelligence mind control. This is an interesting article because it's titled Bye Bye Blue Sky. And by the time you go through their examples here, you will realize that these visionaries, the futurist, yeah, all the programming we've had since television began back with radio. It's all on frequencies. But it seems like we're easily manipulated, all of us. All of us are prone to be victims of this. With 5G now saturating the planet, we're encased in satellites, hundreds of thousands of them, private corporations, other countries. It's a soup. It's an electromagnetic soup. This is a great article. Again, I'll leave all the links to these. This one was disturbing. Wall Street today, Wall Street Journal. Facebook to banks. Give us your data. We'll give you our users. Facebook wants all of your financial information from your bank. I contend, ladies and gentlemen, you don't need a God. They're here already. The modern gods are the ones that we elevated to be gods. They're the tech giants. Think about it. They know more about you than you know about yourself. And having come out of the payment industry, I can tell you, if I have your financial information, I have you. I have you more than what you ever will realize. I'll follow you everywhere you go, and I'll eventually, in fact, I don't even have to do it now. I can buy a licensing to the program that is so accurate in predicting your buying habits. We're getting it to the point to where we can almost anticipate in real time. Sounds like an enslavement, doesn't it? pandemic could be wiped out for 900 million people. And my reason why I'm showing this, so AI is now in the business of creating artificial flesh cells. If we piss AI off, or an AI, wherever there's a plethora of them. Now, if there is, much like the Elohim, if there is a superior cat behind all this, think how easy it would be to, ready, invent, grow, and disperse a contagion that would be guaranteed to kill 1 billion of us. Genetically modified babies given go-ahead in UK ethics body. This is transhumanism. This is the physical evidence. This is a PDF. I can leave you the link to it so you can download it yourself. I would encourage you to read this. This technological utopia that we thought we were creating, it's enslaved us. And something's taken control of it. I don't know what it is. It's greater than any God man has ever known. This one has more prayers to it than any one religion God. It's got the dedication of nearly 7.5 billion people. It was announced that we know now they can target this. They know 4 billion minds are now connected and counting. This is an invasion. This is a takeover. So anyway, heavy stuff, I know. But I know people don't like to hear it. And I know it goes against everyone's religious beliefs. I get it. It goes against all of our beliefs as to who humanity is. If we've done this to ourselves, then we are an insane species. That's all I can say. If we have not done this to ourselves, then this is an invasion. This is a full-scale invasion of our species. It can either be one or the other. And again, if we created this technological utopia, because that's what you hear in all the commercials, it'll give you more free time, more time to enjoy yourself. But isn't it amazing? The more technology increases, the less time that we have. Seems like the more stressed we are. Yeah, I know this is heavy, but you know what? Reality is no walk in the park. And something's happening. I told you before about Watson, and I'm sure Watson has brothers, sisters, and etc., an extended family. Watson runs the financial markets, the medical industry. And we don't know how many systems in the United States that are absolutely dependent on computer programs. What would you say? 100%? Yeah. That's a takeover. Back in the day, I went to ROTC. I was studying, my specialty. I had a high adaptive intuition to military strategies. It's because I was good with numbers. And when you're looking to overcome an opponent, you study your opponent. You don't attack. The best thing you can do to your opponent is to appear to be an ally and learn and watch. and plan accordingly. Same thing in business. Um, so if you look at this from a strategic point of view, it's been excellent. It's been phenomenally executed with military precision beyond man's capacity. And it's everywhere. How do you like the story about what happens with one of the banks, one of the major banks? The computer program, the ghost in the machine. I know what the programmers are saying, the analysts are saying is that we didn't do it. How the computer did this. It's a glitch. That's what you hear. It's a glitch in the system. No, it's the system generating itself. And as a result, hundreds of people lost their homes who didn't need, they were perfectly up. No, there was no reason for it. The computer cut them off. Now you begin to think about this. Now, let me shed some light how I see this. In the movie THX 1138, Robert Duvall was in that. How many of you saw that movie? If you haven't, if you're on Netflix, go check it out. That's the future. We're underground because what happened to our sun? It weakened. And the radiation was so great, man went underground. But the machine is what rules man. And the God that they're worshiping in the future that was taken from the gods of this era, excuse me, is now AI. Artificial God. I think technically they're all artificial. But think about this. If you were an observer of our species, looking at the planet as the only resource that you have, I mean, if it gets screwed up, you're screwed. I want to talk about something. I'm going to be doing a video on it. You see this? See this bottle? Let me tell you what's happening here. This bottle now represents 99% of all liquids transported in the world. We all drink from them. These bottles leach. This is plastic. Plastic is made from petrochemicals. It's called BHPs, folks. We've consumed so much of this, it is thought that it is a contributor to more and more of the cancers plaguing our species and now our children. If you're observing, this substance now pollutes every beach in the world. In fact, in every ocean, there are now large biomasses of this stuff. As an observer, an intelligent observer, what would you do? You ready for another shocker? And I'm going to do a complete show on this one. In the United States, in fact, include North America, but we know for sure in the United States, there is no longer no clean, safe, drinkable, fresh water. You cannot go to any lake, stream, or river in the United States and drink out of it. Even that which is coming out of aquifers is contaminated. You know what they're contaminated with? Besides the petrochemicals, pharmaceuticals. It's leached into the aquifers. There's no more safe, fresh drinkable fresh water. Is this an invasion? Or are we a species of idiots? Yeah, this is brutal. I don't expect it to get much viewers after I repost it. I don't care. At least it's on the record that someone is trying to say, wake up. In fact, I'm just adding my voice to the cacophony of other voices. We've passed the point of no return. Anyone that wants, the point is, it's a fantasy to think that there's going to be a savior of anything or of any kind. What we have done to ourselves is irreparable. I don't think that this can be fixed. I don't. So anyway, have yourselves a good day. Listen, it's depressing, I get it. But maybe, again, we can take the randomness principle, and in any equation, you have to factor in the random factor. Maybe, just maybe, there is a random factor that it can help us get out of this pickle. I put this map up here, and I'm going to continue to build on it because I want to begin to precisely put where these biomasses are at. And what it's doing is altering the complete ecological balance. It's insanity, folks. It's insanity. All right. Tonight got Miss Dr. Claudia Albers. And we're going to have a good show. I want to really let you know, you really ought to tune in tonight. Nancy sent some pictures. She is a subscriber and a really overall good person. I believe it was one of her relatives who took some pictures. And folks, I've got Dr. Albers looking at them right now. But if what I think, in fact, was captured here, oh boy. All right, folks, I appreciate you. We're going to be all right somehow or another. And we're all going to die. So at that point, we know we're going to be all right. But no, I can't say that. I hope we're all right. But the more and more evidence I see, it's harder and harder to continue to project this, as our good friend Jeff Doherty says, unicorns, rainbows, and pixies. I mean, I'd love to live in a land where that is, but boy, I'm telling you right now, it sucks. The reality, you look around, it's like, man, this is not good. All right, folks, I appreciate every one of you. You're good people. I wish I could just shake your hand, give you a hug, and say, thumbs up. We're going to be all right. You know, be a ride. All right, I'll see y'all tonight then. Be good to yourselves. All right, bye-bye.